What I'm about to tell you will change the way you see loyalty forever. I never thought a 5-pound chihuahua could save my life. His name was Peanut, and for 3 years he had been my faithful companion, my little shadow who followed me everywhere around the house. Peanut wasn't just a pet, he was family. The kind of friend who never judged, never lied, never expected anything but love in return. But there was one person Peanut absolutely hated. One person who made my tiny dog transform into a ferocious guardian the moment he walked through my door. And that person was my best friend. Or, at least, the man I called my best friend. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now before this story continues. I'm talking about Marcus Chun. We met in college, freshman year during orientation week. He was the guy everyone wanted to be friends with, charismatic, confident, always knowing the right thing to say. We bonded over late-night pizza runs, studies that turned into philosophical debates and dreams about the future. By sophomore year, we were inseparable. By graduation, we were brothers. Or so I thought. Fast forward to today. I'm 32 years old, working as a software engineer at a tech startup in Seattle. Marcus works in finance, climbing the corporate ladder with the same determination he brought to everything in life. We still met up twice a week, still shared everything, still considered each other the closest thing to family we had. My parents had passed away in a car accident when I was 25, and Marcus was there through it all. He held me at the funeral. He helped me sort through their belongings. He was the shoulder I cried on when the grief became unbearable. But Peanut saw something I couldn't see, something that would destroy everything I believed about friendship. It started about 6 months ago. Marcus came over on a Friday night, like he always did, carrying a 6-pack of craft beer and wearing that easy smile that made everyone trust him instantly. I opened the door, excited to catch up. After a long week of work, but before Marcus could even step inside, Peanut launched himself at him like a tiny torpedo, barking, snarling, teeth bared. His little body was shaking with rage, and his eyes, those usually sweet, gentle eyes, were filled with something I'd never seen before. Pure hatred. Peanut, stop. I grabbed him, shocked by the intensity of his reaction. My chihuahua had never acted like this before. Never. He was friendly with everyone, neighbors, delivery people, even the veterinarian who gave him shots. But with Marcus, it was like he was facing down a mortal enemy. Marcus laughed it off. That charming laugh that always put people at ease. Guess the little guy is having a bad day, huh? He reached down to pet Peanut, trying to make peace, but my dog snapped at his fingers, coming within inches of drawing blood. I was mortified. I'm so sorry, man. I don't know what's gotten into him. I carried Peanut to the bedroom and closed the door, his barks echoing through the apartment even as I tried to calm him down. But in that moment, my chihuahua was trying to tell me something. Something I was too blind to see. That night, Marcus and I sat on the couch, drinking beer and talking about work, relationships, life. It was comfortable, easy, the way it had always been. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't stop thinking about Peanut's reaction. It was so unlike him, so violent, so certain. Maybe you should get him checked out, Marcus suggested, taking a sip of his beer. Could be a medical thing. Dogs can get weird when they're not feeling well at Maggie Sense. It was the logical explanation, so I made an appointment with the vet for the following week. Dr. Peterson examined Peanut's thoroughly blood tests, physical exam, behavioral assessment. Everything came back normal, perfectly healthy. Some dogs just don't like certain people, she explained with a shrug. It's not always rational. Could be a scent, a mannerism, something in their past. Hard to say. But I knew Peanut didn't have a traumatic past. I'd adopted him as a puppy from a reputable breeder. He'd been socialized properly, trained with patience, loved unconditionally. There was no reason for him to hate Marcus. No reason at all. Except there was, and that reason would soon come crashing into my life like a wrecking ball. The second time Marcus came over, the reaction was even worse. Peanut was waiting by the door as if he knew exactly who was coming. The moment he heard Marcus's voice in the hallway, he started barking frantically, scratching at the door like he was trying to protect me from some invisible threat. I had to lock him in the bedroom before opening the door, and even then his howls were so loud and desperate that Marcus and I ended up going out to a bar instead. "Dude, seriously, what's wrong with your dog?" Marcus asked as we settled into a booth at our favorite pub. There was something in his voice. Annoyance, concern. I couldn't quite place it. "I honestly don't know," I admitted, running my hand through my hair in frustration. "The vet says he's fine, but every time you come over, he loses his mind. It's like he thinks you're a threat or something." Marcus took a long drink of his beer, his eyes fixed on the sports game playing on the TV above the bar. "Maybe he's jealous? Dogs can be possessive, right? You're his human, and he doesn't want to share you." Again, it sounded reasonable, logical, the kind of explanation that made sense to someone who didn't want to dig deeper. So I accepted it. I started keeping Peanut in another room whenever Marcus visited. I ignored the barking, the scratching, the desperate attempts to warn me. I ignored the one voice that was trying to save me from betrayal. But Peanut never gave up. Every single time Marcus came over, my chihuahua went into full alert mode. It became a pattern I couldn't ignore. Other friends could visit without issue. My co-worker Jake, my neighbor Sarah, even my ex-girlfriend Emma, whom I dated for 2 years. Peanut was friendly with all of them, excited even. But Marcus triggered something primal in my dog, something that went beyond mere dislike. I started to pay attention, really pay attention. When Marcus thought I wasn't looking, I'd catch these micro-expressions on his face, a tightness around his eyes when I talked about my recent promotion at work, a barely concealed smirk when I mentioned a girl I was interested in. Little cracks in the perfect little glimpses of something dark underneath. Most people who watch forget to subscribe. Be one more subscribe now. 3 months into this strange situation, something happened that made me start questioning everything. I was at the work, buried in code, when I got a text from my boss. "Linda, can you come to my office? Need to talk about something urgent." My heart sank. In my experience, urgent conversations with the boss were never good news. I walked to her office, mentally preparing myself for bad news about the project I'd been leading. But what she told me wasn't about work performance at all. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me," Linda said, her expression serious. "Have uban sharing confidential company information with anyone outside the organization?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. "What? No, absolutely not. Why would you ask me that?" Linda pulled out her laptop and turned it toward me. On the screen was an email, thread-forwarded messages containing detailed information about our company's upcoming product launch, strategic plans, financial projections, information that was strictly confidential, information that only senior team members had access to. And there, at the bottom of the forwarded chain, was my email address. But I had never sent those emails. I had never even seen those emails before. "Linda, I swear, I didn't send these. Someone must have hacked my account, or the security team traced the IP address," she interrupted gently. "These emails were sent from your home computer, Lachi Achi night, on dates when you were documented as being home My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. My home computer, lachi achi night, but I hadn't sent anything, unless someone else had access to my computer. Someone who knew my passwords, someone I trusted completely. Marcus. Marcus had been at my apartment dozens of times over the past few months. He knew where I kept my laptop. He'd seen me type in my password countless times. We'd even joked about how I used the same password for everything because I was terrible at remembering multiple ones. And suddenly, Peanut's behavior started to make terrifying sense. I need time to investigate this, I told Linda, my voice shaking. Please, give me 48 hours to figure out what's happening. I promise you, I didn't send those emails. Linda studied me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded. 48 hours. But if we don't have answers by then, I'll have to involve law enforcement. This is corporate espionage, and it's a serious crime. I left her office in a daze, my mind spinning with possibilities I didn't want to consider. Marcus, my best friend, my brother, the person I trusted more than anyone in the world. Could he really be behind this? Could he have been using our friendship to steal company secrets? But why? What could he possibly gain from destroying my career? That night, I didn't tell Marcus about the meeting with Linda. Instead, I called him and asked if he wanted to meet for dinner. Just a casual hangout. Nothing unusual. He agreed immediately, suggesting this new Italian place downtown that had been getting rave reviews. As I hung up, I looked down at Peanut, who was sitting at my feet, his dark eyes watching me with an intensity that made my chest tighten. You tried to tell me, didn't you, boy? I whispered, reaching down to scratch behind his ears. He licked my hand, his tail wagging slightly, as if he was relieved that I was finally starting to understand. My chihuahua had been screaming the truth at me for months, and I had been too blind, too trusting, too naive to listen. But I was listening now, and over the next 48 hours, I was going to find out exactly who Marcus Chun really was. I was going to uncover the truth behind the smiles, the brotherhood, the years of friendship that suddenly felt like an elaborate lie. Because sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us the most. And sometimes it takes a 5-pound chihuahua to show us the monster hiding behind the mask. At dinner that night, I watched Marcus carefully, looking for signs I'd missed before. The way his eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite name when I mentioned my work stress. The two quick reassurances that everything would be fine. The subtle steering of conversation away from topics that might reveal too much. And for the first time in our friendship, I realized I was sitting across from a stranger. A stranger who knew all my secrets. A stranger who had my complete trust. A stranger who might be using that trust to destroy everything I'd worked for. Peanut had tried to warn me from the very beginning, and now I had 48 hours to prove that my chihuahua was right. 48 hours to save my career, my reputation, and maybe even my life. Because if Marcus was capable of stealing company secrets, what else was he capable of? What other lies had he told? What other betrayals had he committed? While I smiled and called him my brother, the truth was coming, whether I was ready for it or not. And something told me that when I finally uncovered what Marcus had been hiding, nothing would ever be the same again. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's face, that friendly smile, those reassuring words, that brotherhood I thought was real. But what if it had all been a performance? What if every moment of our friendship had been carefully calculated? I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Peanut curled up against my chest, his warm little body rising and falling with each breath. He seemed calmer than he'd been in months, as if he knew I was finally starting to understand. At 6 a.m., I made a decision. I couldn't go to the police, yet I had no proof, just suspicions and a pattern of strange behavior. I couldn't confront Marcus directly. He really was behind this. He'd just deny everything and cover his tracks. No, I needed evidence. Hard, undeniable. Evidence that would prove what he'd done. And I knew exactly where to start. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did. Then I opened my laptop and began digging through my digital life with the kind of focus I usually reserved for complex coding problems. Email logs, browser history, file access, timestamps, everything that might show when someone else had been using my computer. What I found made my blood run cold. On 17 different occasions over the past 6 months, my laptop had been accessed between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Times when I was asleep. Times when someone could have easily used my computer while I was unconscious in the next room. And every single one of those dates corresponded to a night when Marcus had stayed over at my apartment. I felt sick. Physically sick. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the logs, seeing the pattern emerge with crystal clarity. Marcus would come over for dinner or drinks. We'd hang out for hours, and then because he lived on the other side of the city and we'd been drinking, I'd offer him my couch for the night. The same couch that was 10 feet from where I kept my laptop. The same couch where my best friend had apparently been stealing from me while I slept. But I needed more than access logs. I needed to know what he'd done with the information he stole. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I hacked into Marcus's email account. It wasn't difficult. We'd set up each other's accounts years ago for a joint project in college, and Marcus, like me, was terrible at changing his passwords. Within 10 minutes, I was reading through his private correspondence. What I found there would haunt me forever. The emails went back 2 years. 2 years of carefully planned betrayal. Marcus hadn't just been stealing company secrets, he'd been systematically sabotaging my entire life. There were messages to my ex-girlfriend Emma, flirtatious texts that explained why she'd suddenly broken up with me 18 months ago, claiming she'd fallen for someone else, that someone had been Marcus. There were emails to headhunters, recommending himself for positions I'd applied for, using insider information he'd gathered from conversations with me to tailor his applications perfectly. But the worst ones were the most recent emails to Preston Analytics, a competitor to my company, offering to sell them detailed information about our upcoming product launch. Information he'd stolen from my computer. Information that was being sold for $50,000. $50,000 for destroying my career, my reputation, my future. And then I found the email that made everything click into place. A message from just 3 days ago, sent to someone named David Park at Preston Analytics. Target is getting suspicious. Need to accelerate timeline. Can you have the funds ready by Friday? Once this deal closes, I'll disappear and he'll take the fall. Perfect scapegoat. I was the scapegoat. This had been the plan all along. Marcus wasn't just stealing information, he was setting me up to take the blame for his crimes. When Preston Analytics used our company's secrets, when the product launch failed, when the investigation began, all evidence would point to me. My emails, my computer, my access credentials. Marcus would walk away $50,000 richer while I faced criminal charges. I sat back in my chair, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. How long had he been planning this? How many of our moments together had been real? And how many had been reconnaissance missions? Had he ever actually been my friend? Or had I just been a mark from the very beginning? Peanut jumped onto my lap, nuzzling against my hand. I looked down at him, this tiny creature who'd seen the truth when I couldn't. "You knew," I whispered, my voice cracking. "You knew all along, didn't you?" "Boy," he licked my fingers, his tail wagging slightly, and I felt tears burning in my eyes. My dog had been trying to protect me, and I'd ignored him. I'd chosen Marcus over Peanut's warnings, and that choice had almost destroyed me. But I wasn't destroyed yet. I still had time. The deal with Preston Analytics wasn't supposed to close until Friday 2 days from now, which meant I had 2 days to stop it. 2 days to gather enough evidence to prove Marcus's guilt, 2 days to save my career and my life. And I wasn't going to waste a single second. I started by forwarding all of Marcus's incriminating emails to a secure cloud account, multiple backups in multiple locations where he couldn't delete them. Then I called a college friend who worked in cybersecurity. "Jake, I need a favor. A biggie one, and I need you to not ask questions until this is over." Jake agreed immediately. The kind of loyalty that real friends show, the kind of loyalty I thought I'd had with Marcus. Within 3 hours, Jake had installed monitoring software on my laptop, invisible, undetectable software that would record everything if Marcus tried to access it again. He also set up a hidden camera in my living room, disguised as a smoke detector. "If he's been using your computer at night, we'll catch him in the act," Jake explained. "Video evidence is pretty hard to argue with. Now I just needed to get Marcus back into my apartment one more time." I sent him a text, keeping my tone casual and friendly, same tone I'd used for years. "Hey man, got some stuff I need to talk through. Career decisions. Could use your advice. Pizza and beer at my place tonight." His response came within minutes. "Absolutely. Be there at 7. You know I've always got your back, brother." Brother. The word made me want to throw my phone across the room. But I forced myself to stay calm, to play the role, to be the trusting friend he thought I still was. Because tonight I was going to catch him. Tonight the mask was going to come off. Tonight Marcus Chun was going to reveal exactly what kind of person he really was. I spent the afternoon preparing. I set out my laptop in its usual spot, password sticky note accidentally left visible. I made sure the hidden camera had a clear view of the couch and the desk. I rehearsed what I'd say, how I'd act, making sure nothing would tip him off that I knew the truth. And I called Linda, my boss, and told her I'd have evidence by tomorrow morning. Evidence that would prove my innocence and expose the real criminal. At exactly 7 p.m., my doorbell rang, and immediately, from the bedroom where I'd confined him, Peanut started barking. Loud, desperate, warning barks that said danger, danger, danger in the only language she knew. But this Chimi, I was listening. This time, I understood. This time, my chihuahua's warnings were going to save me. I opened the door. Marcus stood there with his usual easy smile, holding a pizza box and a 6-pack of beer. "Hey, brother," he said, pulling me into a hug. "Whatever you're going through, we'll figure it out together. That's what friends are for, right?" I hugged him back, feeling his arms around me, remembering all the times I'd trusted this embrace. All the times I'd believed in this friendship. All the times I'd been completely, devastatingly wrong. "Yeah," I said, my voice steady, despite the rage burning in my chest. "That's what friends are for." We settled on the couch, ate pizza, drank beer. Marcus asked about work, about the stress I'd mentioned in my text. I fed him a story about being offered a promotion but being unsure if I should take it. "They want me to relocate to the Austin office." I lied smoothly. Better pay, better position, but it means leaving Seattle, leaving everything I know here. I watched his face carefully as I spoke. Was that a flash of panic in his eyes? Relief, calculation. He was good, really good. But I was watching for the tells. Now, the micro-expressions that revealed the truth behind the performance. That's a tough call, man, Marcus said thoughtfully, taking a sip of his beer. When do they need an answer? Friday, I said, watching him carefully. They need to know by Friday. There it was. A barely perceptible tightening around his eyes, a slight shift in his posture. Friday was when his deal with Preston Analytics was supposed to close. Friday was when he planned to disappear with $50,000 while I took the fall. And now I was telling him I might be leaving Seattle, might be escaping the trap he'd set for me. You should take it, he said quickly. Definitely take it. Fresh start, new opportunities. I think it would be great for you. Of course, he wanted me to take it. If I moved to Austin, the investigation would take longer to reach me. I'd be isolated, vulnerable, easier to frame. Every word out of his mouth was manipulation. Every smile was a lie. And I was recording all of it. We talked for another hour. Me spinning my false story. Him offering encouragement that was really just steering me toward my own destruction. And as the night wore on, I pretended to get tired, yawning, rubbing my eyes. Man, that beer hit me harder than I thought. I'm exhausted. You want me to clear out? Marcus asked, starting to gather his things. Nah, it's late, and you've been drinking. Just crash on the couch. Like always, I'm gonna pass out. This was it. This was the moment I'd been setting up all night. I stood up, stretched, and headed toward my bedroom, making sure to leave my laptop on the coffee table. Password visible on the sticky note. Camera watching everything. Help yourself to anything in the fridge if you get hungry. I called over my shoulder. You know where everything is. Thanks, Brother Marcus said. Sleep well. I closed my bedroom door, but I didn't go to sleep. Instead, I sat on the edge of my bed with my phone, watching the live feed from the hidden camera. Peanut sat beside me, his little body tense, as if he understood that something important was happening, and we waited to see if Marcus would do exactly what I knew he would do. For 45 minutes, nothing happened. Marcus sat on the couch, scrolling through his own phone, looking relaxed and comfortable in my home, the home where he'd been betraying me for 2 years. Then he stood up, walked to my bedroom door, pressed his ear against it, listening. Satisfied that I was asleep, he returned to the couch, and he reached for my laptop. I watched through the camera feed as my best friend, my brother, opened my computer and began typing. His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, navigating through folders, accessing files he had no right to see. And then he plugged in a USB drive and started copying everything. Documents, spreadsheets, strategic plans, financial projections. Everything Preston Analytics would need to destroy my company. But he didn't stop there. He also opened a draft email in my accountant email I'd never written, confessing to selling company secrets and expressing regret for my actions. A false confession that would seal my fate when the investigation began. A confession that made it look like I was racked with guilt, on the verge of turning myself in. He was setting up my suicide. That's what this was. Wasn't just framing me for corporate espionage, was setting up a scenario where I'd be found dead, apparent suicide, with a confession email drafted on my computer. The perfect ending to his perfect crime. No witnesses, no complications, just a tragic story about a promising engineer who made terrible choices and couldn't live with the guilt. I felt cold, ice cold. This wasn't just betrayal. This was attempted murder. And I had it all on video. Marcus finished copying the files, deleted his browser history, wiped the keyboard with his shirt sleeve to remove fingerprints. He thought of everything. Then he settled back on the couch, pulled out his phone, and sent a text. I couldn't see what it said, but I knew who it was to. Preston Analytics. Confirming the delivery, confirming the payday, confirming my destruction. I had everything I needed: video evidence, email records, digital fingerprints that proved Marcus's guilt beyond any doubt. But I didn't move. Not yet. Because I wanted to see his face when he realized he'd been caught. I wanted to watch the mask finally, completely shatter. I wanted him to understand that he'd underestimated the one person he thought he could manipulate forever. I waited another 30 minutes, letting him think he'd gotten away with it. Then I opened my bedroom door and walked into the living room. Marcus was lying on the couch, eyes closed, pretending to be asleep. "Hey, Marcus," I said quietly. "I know you're awake." His eyes opened slowly, and he sat up, rubbing his face in a performance of sleepiness. "What's up, man? Everything okay?" "I have a question for you," I said, my voice calm despite the fury roaring through my veins. "And I want you to be honest with me. Do you think I'm stupid?" Something flickered across his face. Confusion. Wariness. "What? No, of course not. Why would you?" "Because you'd have to think I'm pretty stupid to believe all of this," I interrupted, pulling out my phone and showing him the camera feed. "Smile for the camera. Marcus, you're a star." The color drained from his face as he realized what he was seeing. The recording of him accessing my laptop, copying files, drafting a false confession, all of it captured in high definition, time-stamped, undeniable. "I can explain." "Save it," I said coldly. "I've already forwarded the video to my boss, to the company's legal team, and to the police. They're probably on their way here right now. I've also got copies of all your emails, including the ones to Preston Analytics, the $50,000 ones, the ones where you call me the perfect scapegoat." Marcus stood up, his usual confidence crumbling. "Look, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been using me for 2 years, using our friendship to steal, to sabotage, to destroy my job opportunities, my reputation. You took it all. And you were planning to take my life too, weren't you?" That fake confession email wasn't just for the investigation. It was supposed to be my suicide note. He didn't deny it. He couldn't. The truth was right there between us, finally exposed. Nowhere left to hide. "You don't understand the pressure I was under," he started, and I almost laughed at the audacity of him trying to play victim. "The debts, the expectations. I needed that money. I needed to betray someone who loved you like a brother. I finished. You need to destroy someone who trusted you completely. Someone who would have helped you if you'd just asked." And that's when I heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. Marcus heard them too. For a moment, he just stood there, all his masks finally stripped away, showing me the stranger he'd been all along. And in that moment, I understood something profound. Peanut hadn't been reacting to Marcus the person. He'd been reacting to Marcus, the predator. Dogs can sense evil, can smell betrayal, can see through deception in ways humans can't. My chihuahua had been screaming the truth at me for months, and I'd finally listened. "The police will be here in about 90 seconds, I said quietly. "You can run if you want, but there's nowhere to go. I have everything. Every email, every file, every piece of evidence that proves what you've done." Marcus looked at the door, then back at me, and I saw something that chilled me to my core. No remorse, No guilt, no regret. Just anger that he'd been caught. Just frustration that his perfect plan had failed. And I realized that the friend I'd mourned, the brother I'd lost, he had never existed in the first place. It had all been an illusion, a performance, a lie so complete that I'd believed it for years. The sirens were right outside now. Flashing lights reflected through my windows. From the bedroom, Peanut was barking triumphantly, and I'd never heard a more beautiful sound. My chihuahua had saved my life. His persistent warnings, his refusal to accept Marcus, his absolute certainty that something was wrong, all of it had led to this moment. The moment when the truth finally won. The police arrested Marcus that night. He's currently serving 5 years for corporate espionage, fraud, and attempted identity theft. Preston Analytics paid a hefty fine, and I was completely cleared of all charges. My company gave me that promotion not to Austin, but right here in Seattle, where I belong. Linda personally apologized for ever doubting me. You know what saved you, she said. Trust your instincts, and apparently trust your dog. She was right. Peanut saved my life. That 5-pound chihuahua saw through Marcus's lies when I couldn't. He sensed the danger, the predator, the betrayal hiding behind a friendly smile, and he never stopped warning me. Even when I ignored him, even when I locked him away, even when I chose Marcus over him, I learned something profound through this nightmare. Animals see truth that humans miss. They don't get fooled by charm or manipulation. They sense intention, character, soul. Peanut knew Marcus was evil before I had a single clue. Now, when Peanut barks at someone, I listen. When he shows distrust, I pay attention, because my chihuahua's judgment is better than mine ever was. Marcus tried to reach out from prison once, asking for forgiveness. I never responded. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive, but I did forgive myself for being blind, for being trusting, for being human. If you made it this far, you're special. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, activate notifications, and share with 3 people who need to hear this story. Today, Peanut sleeps on my bed every night, my loyal guardian, my tiny hero, and I never, ever ignore his warnings again. Because sometimes the smallest voice carries the biggest truth, and sometimes a chihuahua's love is the only thing standing between you and complete destruction. Trust your dog. They see what we can't.